Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 58 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, now that we've got these accumulators placed down, we need to hook them up to the electrical network so they will be useful. But it's a little more complicated than just hooking them up to an electrical line. We need to create a latch with the circuit network. Enjoy! But for now, we can hook it up with some power lines here. But we don't want to hook it up all the way. We're just going to leave it there for now, because we need to create some logic here. What we're going to need to do is run a wire a very, very long way to our power setup. So let's put a cable there and disconnect it, because we're just here for the logic. Because what we need to do, those got pretty full already just in a couple moments of being connected. What we need to do is hook up one of the accumulators to our network here, and now the charge in percent of the accumulators is now under A. So let's take that A signal and move it all the way up to the top of our base where our boilers are. It's going to take quite a zigzag to get there. One thing we can do is follow our road network here, since that is a convenient location of lots of poles. It just kind of makes sense. We don't want to snake this thing through too many weird places, because then we might accidentally disconnect it and then the power network gets all messed up. Okay. Here's the point to which our boilers connect to the network. It's through this one wire right here. So we need to create a logic to keep the batteries from going completely empty. The point of these boilers here is not to charge the batteries, it's just to keep power going when the batteries run out. And we can do that with this power switch here. What the power switch does is basically allow you to connect two different power networks using logic. It looks like that won't reach. So let's see, let's try that. There we go. So now these two networks are completely disconnected unless this is connected like that. Now we could manually switch it like this, or we can create a circuit network for it. Now you could do something simple, like with a single combinator here, and you can say something along the lines of, if signal A, so the charge of the batteries is less than, let's say, 10%, output a green square, and if this is set to run based on a green square, let's use green. So if the green square is more than 0, then it turns on. But the problem with this is if you set it up that way, your network is going to be almost unreadable, because it's going to constantly turn off and turn off like instantaneously. So it's going to look like a saw where it's like going up and down, and it's going to be difficult, like you're not going to get useful data. And we're already kind of not getting useful data where our production is showing the capacity of our solar panels and the steam engines, when we really don't want both of those. We only want one or the other. So by turning them on and off gradually, if that makes sense, it'll make more sense. And the technical term for what we want is we want a latch. We want a circuit to where when it's turned on, like a light switch, it stays on until it's turned off. So the way that this network works right now is it's like a light switch with a spring on it. So if you sit there and you press the switch, the lights turn on. But the moment you let go of the switch, the lights turn off. And that's not very useful for turning the lights on in your room. And it's also not very useful for this electrical network here. We want it to stay on until it was switched off. So we need 2 more combinators for this. Let's put them about right there and right there. So the one on the bottom will be the switch on one. So we'll want to connect this to our network, and it's going to receive the A signal. So let's say if A is less than, how about 10% of the total capacity? Output a green square to turn on. And it takes that green square and sends it over here. So how do we latch this? Well, what we can do is see how this is set to turn on. If it's turned on with a green square. Well, let's turn it on with the green square. So let's set it so it'll only run if green square is less than red square, or start is less than stop. Not equal, it's less. And then we can create a latch by taking the output signal and putting it back into the beginning. So what this means is if any time this receives a green signal, it will output the green signal back to its input. So once it's turned on, it will stay on until it's turned off. But how do we turn it off? Well, if it receives a red signal, the green signal cannot be less than the red signal if they're both 1. So if there's a green and a red, the red will take priority and turn the system off. So right here, it's if A is less than 10. Well, let's do if A is more than, oh, I don't know, how about 15? Output a red square. And then connect this. So now it's outputting a red square because our accumulator charge is 20% right now, because they're not actually hooked up. And finally, we need to set this up to, if it's got a green charge at all, it turns on. Ah, this is backwards. It needs to be greater than. There we go. That was a little weird. So we have an output of a red square, which is telling it to turn off. No green square. So it's not turning on. And it's disconnected. Now, the reason why the power network is all messed up is because the accumulators aren't connected. So the accumulators must be connected for this logic to work correctly. Wow, the factory suddenly got very dark. Where is that power pole? Right here. And now we need to connect it again. There we go. Now let's go back up to our latch and see if it works properly. There we go. It's kind of hard to see with these windows in the way. So you see how it's letting the charge go up to 15%, and then it's disconnecting and letting the charge go down to 10%. And then it connects, disconnects, connects, disconnects. So you saw when I had it set up incorrectly the first time, the lights were all glitchy and weird. Well, that's not exactly what would happen if you just had one combinator, but it kind of shows you what would happen on your circuit network here, on your electrical network. It would be, and it would look crazy and hard to read, where when it's doing this, this actually makes some sense. Now, because the time interval is only 5 seconds, it's kind of hard to make sense of it. But if we switch this to 1 minute, we can get a much better idea of what's happening. So the blue here is our steam engines from fuel. So I can tell right now that the rate of power generation is about, let's say, a third of our total capacity, because the steam engines are running a third of the time to keep the batteries charged. They run at full blast and then stop, run at full blast and then stop. So this data is much more useful than it would be without that latch. So you see how it has no signal attached, and then it sent a green signal. The green signal stays stuck, and it keeps it on until it shuts off again. Might have to play with these numbers later to make them work right. But for now it seems to work. But we need yet another latch here. So let's copy that. This will only work for our steam engines. So this will keep us from running out of power at night. But what about during the daytime? The whole point of this, the whole problem we were having, is that during the daytime, we weren't able to consume all of that hydrogen because the network was topped off already. Well, let's create another latch. Looks like we're running quite low on coal. We might have to mine it from somewhere else here. So what we need to do is take our latch and also apply it to our other method of generating power, solar panels. But we need to kind of set this up in a way where the solar panels aren't just always connected. So for starters, we're going to need to kind of move these power poles kind of the long way around here. There we go. I think that works where none of these are connected to any of the solar panels. So now let's disconnect this, which makes sure the solar panels aren't connected on the bottom either. Looks like these just barely don't reach. Yeah, I can tell that solar panels are still connected to the network because when I click on a solar panel pole, it's connected to all this stuff. So it looks like the one is right there. There we go. Solar panels are disconnected. So now we need to use that circuit network latch like we did before, but change the numbers for our solar panels so they make sense. Because the numbers make sense right now for the boilers, but they don't make sense for the solar panels. Let's see, let's put this down here. And let's change the numbers on this, where we want the solar panels to charge up the batteries to say, let's say 90%. So if the batteries are less than 90%, the solar panels will be allowed to turn on and connect, and then they will turn off at 95%. So they'll keep them almost completely charged, but not all the way. And for this to work, we're going to need to run the circuit condition all the way down here. Might as well keep this connected right now. But we have a long series of wires to connect here. I won't connect that one right there, so we can connect it when everything is done and see if it works properly. Oh, this is going to take so long. Yeah, there's no easy power poles connected here. I'd have to place new ones, and I don't want to. In part because I feel like the power poles are just going to be moved again when the panels expand. But this is taking too long. Okay, let's do a nice long run of these. Have to go all the way up here. start moving this signal down. Okay. We've got our signal back. So you can see right now, accumulators are at 100%, because of course they are. They're all filled up, but we don't want them to be at 100%. We want them to be no more than 95%. So if they're below 90%, the solar panels will connect to charge the accumulators. But they will turn off at 95% to leave a little bit left over for those hydrogen burners and anything else that needs to burn byproducts. But it will always leave some space. And now that we connect it, it shuts down. Because it's letting it go down to about 90%. And there you see how it charged and then stopped. And then it's letting it go down. Charging. And stopped. So it gets to about 90. Connects. This gets up to 95. Sends the stop signal. Gets rid of the latch. So let's watch this go down again. Just trying to hopefully make this make a little sense, because it's kind of confusing. But it sends the green signal. Green signal gets latched. It stays latched until it receives the red signal, and then turns off. So, hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of weird, kind of complicated, but quite useful when you're dealing with lots of byproducts. With a vanilla game, or if you don't care about the byproducts, it's not that big a deal, because you just want your batteries to be charged all the time, and you can just create a nice pattern. But in this situation, there's merit to never having the accumulators completely charged. They always have some space on hand. So we can check our work by getting all these lights placed, and then go back and check on the hydrogen and see if it's all filled up, which is bad, or if it's all been burnt off, which is good. And that's kind of the whole point of that electrical network, was to leave space for the hydrogen to get burned off. Well, good news. We don't have a bunch of hydrogen, but we also don't have any oxygen because we're completely full on slag, so the system is clogged up for other reasons. But the pump is making sure that the tank is at 5,000, which it is. But now oxygen's clogged for an entirely different reason. Stone is clogged up. Well, that's fixable. So let's place some bricks real fast, and then we can check back on the oxygen and see if it's caught up. See if the system works. It's running at full blast, but it's still kind of full. Might just have to be catching up, because we've been producing quite a bit of it. I mean, this part has caught up, basically. Although it looks like it's short on water. It might just be an example of it's too far away from the source pump here. So, I mean, the pump is kind of working, but kind of the problem is this top-up valve is sort of slowing down the flow a bit. So let's do a few things to try to help here. Let's add a pump along the system here to give it that little boost. Although for this to work right, it needs to be set on a circuit network. We don't want it filling up the tank completely. Because the whole point of that tank being there is as a buffer. So if water is less than 16,000. Now it may just be a situation where we don't have enough pumps for this, because this is using quite a bit of water, because the water just doesn't make it down to the end. I think I wasn't quite sure when I built this that if this would be enough. I thought it would, but it's kind of looking like it's not. It's almost running at full power. Not quite, but close enough. Probably all the power is going to all these steam engines here. Yeah, I think we're just going to need another pump. I don't think there's any way around that. Hey, looks like the slag is finally caught up. So how's the electrical network anyway? Okay, working like it should. It's near the bottom, but not completely drained. Since we have so few accumulators compared to the amount that we need, they're not going to last very long. But as we build more, the cycle rate of it turning on and turning off will be slower, more gradual, more predictable. Okay, let's put a pump in here, but on the other side. We don't need to have this here. That didn't really fix the problem. I mean, kind of. It's tough. I mean, well, it's catching up, kind of. I don't know, it feels like it's right on the limit. What if... because I don't want to put another pump in here if we don't have to. What if we hook this up directly, let it work at full power to fill up, and then we put that same top-up valve all the way up here. How will that work? It seems like it's filling up. So it's making it here. It is. Okay, I think this might have been a situation where we are on the razor's edge of having enough water for this whole thing. But we still might have to do something about it because all these machines aren't running at the same time. So we'll come back to it later. But it seems to be working now. We have oxygen again. Producing lots of free charcoal from the algae. Ore processing is going as fast as it possibly can. Looks like we are running quite low on rubite. It's just slow. It's not necessarily that we're running low. So let's go back to this right here. I kind of want to change these numbers to match what we have for the solar panels. So let's say 5% it'll turn on and 10% it turns off. And there we go. So the accumulator charge will stay between somewhere around here and there. So it's going to cycle between these 2 points. It will cycle right around here if it's only getting power from the charcoal burners. And it will cycle around here if it's during the daytime and it's getting power from the solar panels. And at night, it will start here and then go down to there and then cycle this way. Or if we end up having enough accumulators, it'll only go down a certain way and then go back up and then stay around here again. And that's it for this episode. On the next one, we are going to finally start producing some Invar and find a new rubite mine. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.